This is the book of Ephesians, chapter 5, and let's go to verse 25. Let's see, it says, husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church, and gave himself for it, that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word, that he might present it to himself that he might present it to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but it should be holy and without blemish. So ought men to love their wives as their own bodies. He that loveth his wife loveth himself. And for no man has ever hated his own flesh, but he nourished and cherished it, even as the Lord the church. For we are members of his body, of his flesh, and of his bones. The same way that a woman, your wife, is of your flesh. You understand? Where did Eve come from? She came from Adam's rib. Your wife is like your rib, your flesh. You should love it like your own self. I mean, we all should love people as our own self. But how much more your wife? Like, you shouldn't, that's the opposite of beating her. It's the opposite of neglecting her needs. And I said needs, not wants. Not a Gucci purse or nothing like that. No, needs. You're not going to neglect her needs. You're not going to neglect her emotions, her, like the same way that you don't want anybody to do you like that, where you just isolating yourself or anything like that. And it says, for this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall be joined unto his wife. The two shall become one flesh. This is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Christ the church. Nevertheless, let every one of you in particular so love his wife, even as himself, and the wife see that she reverence her husband. Look up the word reverence. Reverence her husband. But this is for you, for you men. It's saying love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy. See, sacrifice. This is what men, men of God should be concentrated on. If you led by Christ, you're going to be remade into his image daily, and you're going to learn about sacrifice. Our lives are to be sacrificed. That's it. Like, that's what, like, for we all, as a man who was once a wicked man, I could tell you that I died a long time ago. Nick died a long time ago. Salakin was born. And this is because that life that I was living, sin, it only leads to death. So we have to become a living sacrifice. We sacrifice the things that old life, the old person we was, the old person that we once were. And we become new creatures. And so we're to be sacrificed. The Bible tells us this. Look, how much more, look at how Christ, they did Jesus Christ. How much more can we expect as his followers? Look at what they did. They crucified many Christians. They killed many Christians. Paul himself was chasing Christians down, killing them. Most of the apostles died and they were martyred. Most of the apostles that follow Christ were martyred. This is the thing, but I'm not saying that all of us are gonna be physically killed. Like, not saying that. But we are to sacrifice ourselves daily, sacrifice for our loved ones, for people in the world. You understand? Like it said, he who loves his life, who tries to save his life, will lose it. And he who gives his life up for my sake will gain eternal life. I'm paraphrasing there, but this is in the Bible. So we're to give our lives for our family. It's the same way for the weak, for the poor. We sacrifice for them. That's what a man of God should do. Again, we all should be we all should be dead to the things of the world. Like we all killed that old man, that old person. That person we were, that guy's dead. You understand? So we all should know, be aware of that. Like that life is over. It ended. And now we thinking about spiritual things and we bringing those spiritual things out to the world. That's what a man of God does. It says, and that in turn that cleanses, like that keeps your woman from going out and playing the harlot, or that cleanses her as well. Your example, your leadership. Now, if that woman is not willing to get on your leadership program, like she's not a woman of God. She don't love the Lord. She don't. So you shouldn't even be with her. And it says and this is again in the book of Ephesians chapter 5, and we're in verse 28. It says, in the same way, husbands ought to love their wives, their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. After all, no one ever hated his own body, but he feeds and cares for it, just as Christ does the church. You love men, you care for yourself, you work out, you take care of your own body. You should do the same thing with your wife. That's just how it should be. All right, and that's pretty clear. And again, this is in the book of Ephesians, man. It goes all the way from this is in chapter 5 from verse 22 to verse 33. Like it talks about all of that. So you should read that as a man, read that as a woman who wants to become a wife. Now I'm going to go into the book of 2 Timothy here, and then I'm going to end this video out. I don't want it to be too long. But again, you can follow me here. We're going to go to the book of 2 Timothy. Get there. Timothy. Be hidden up in here. Galatians. There's a lot of these books, I'll just be hidden. All right. In 2 Timothy verse 5, 2 Timothy chapter 5, we're going to look at verse 8. It says, actually it might be 3:8. This is first Timothy. All right, this is in 1 Timothy chapter 5 and verse 8. It says, if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for his immediate family, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. So let's put this verse here into context. Providing, this is about provision. You have, now this is for husbands and for men and women, husbands and wives, to listen to this. This is about provisions here. A lot of women take this now and run with it and take it out of context and make it seem like the man is the only one who should be providing for the household. If whatever is needed, if it's they struggling and nobody, and the bills are constantly piling up, everything should be solely on his shoulders. Okay, let's go ahead and disprove that and debunk that. Okay, it says if anyone, this is the Bible. This is again in 1 Timothy chapter. This is chapter 4. This is 1 Timothy chapter 5 verse 8. 1 Timothy chapter 5 verse 8. Okay. It says, if anyone does not provide for his relatives, this is anyone. like it's not saying if any man, no, anyone. And we know that the Bible uses male terms, but that means everyone in some instances, okay? There's, like I said, the Son, Jesus Christ, the Son of Man, that doesn't just exclude women, mankind. So if anyone does not provide for his relatives, especially for his immediate family, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. This is for women too, because it says for your relatives. Like, men aren't gonna, like, not every man or even women, you don't have, and it's not just about monetary things, because everyone may not be rich or have a lot of money to be able to provide and pay all of their mother's bills, pay all their father's bills, pay all their brother's bills. Come on now, like that. This doesn't mean that. This is meaning providing when if your parents need help, to your fullest, to whatever capacity you can. You understand? If your parents get sick, you can move them in your house. If you can move them in your house, and allow them to stay there. If they lose their house, if your dad, is needing your help or something like that, you go over there to help him. And if they need their yard cut or something like that, if they need help with a bill, you do that to whatever capacity you can. And it says, especially for his immediate family. When you, as a man, you should have your own things before you include someone else. You have your own house, your own car, you're working. You don't have to be rich. People, that's another thing. The Bible does not say a man has to be rich to have a wife. Every man pretty much had a wife back in these times. From the lowliest serf, the lowly man who was even a slave, to the dude, who was a king. Every man was married, for the most part. You don't have to be rich in this day and age. That's why the woman is your helpmate. Because say you make $40,000 a year, the woman, your wife, comes in, she make $40,000, she make $30,000. That's $70,000. That's $80,000 a year. Y'all can live on that. But see, this is provisions include your food, shelter, and clothing. It don't say nothing about Gucci bags. Don't say nothing about Hermes. Don't say nothing about name brand foolish stuff. You under the man, and you're his helpmate. If you want that stuff, when you come in, you can add to what he's doing. And so if you want extra stuff, then you have the ability to go work. You have the ability you can even work from home, make a living like that. Do something to generate more income for the household. You're his helpmate. He shouldn't be struggling, breaking himself down to the bone. You understand? See, this is where you get these things out of context. A lot of women, you run to these things, and God never taught. There's many other verses that I contrasted. You can look at the video I did on wives. That contrast. It says your beauty is not with adornments, gold jewelry, and all these name brands and taking trips. And no, that ain't no requirement for you to be happy. That ain't no requirement for a good wife. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't have any. Now, we all know that we like nice things, and a man will do nice things for you. Y'all could take trips and things like that. Plan those out, or whatever. But at the end of the day, you shouldn't be looking at a man's income. Like, that's not how that works. And if he's providing for himself, he's providing everything. You come into his program, you should say. What you have to do is get down with that. You add to that. You help him. You help him with those things. You're his helpmate. That's what you like. So you shouldn't want to see your husband just breaking himself down to the bone. Like, he's so tired he can't even play with his children. He can't even give you any time, because you're trying to keep up a lifestyle. You shouldn't do that. That's not the traits of a good woman. So I just wanted to go ahead and get into that now. Again, for men, you need to work. You know, you have to make provisions for your family. Again, no provisions is food, shelter, and clothing. If they have that, you've done your job. Anything extra, you know, she can help you with that. You know, you can, come in and maybe you can take on but she could take on some more responsibilities around the house, and that'll still help you increase in that same capacity as well. But it's not keeping your don't beat yourself up about trying to keep up with the world's lifestyle of how secular relationships are. They don't last. They don't work. The man already purchased the woman, and then once she get tired of that, or the higher bidder comes, she goes with him. That's how that works. So don't ever base your relationships on money, man, thinking you're not enough because you don't make 100,000 or you don't make $1 million, a year or something like that. Don't ever think that, bro. Go get you a good wife. It say he who finds a wife finds a good thing, and obtains favor from the Lord. So find that good woman, and then y'all two will make that work. She's not going to be pressuring you to keep up with things of the world, and not that these lifestyles of the rich and famous. I would say the rich and shameless. So with that being said, this is The Awakening. Peace and blessings to the hearers and doers of the Lord's word. A special blessing to those who watch this video to the end. All right. You have a blessed day.